Hey, this is Gen X Amplified episode number 29. And on this episode, we're going to X it up, but in a slightly different way because we are diving into the importance of having an exceptional customer experience as a brand and as a business owner. So, are you ready? Let's do it.
But we're also the generation that if we take this opportunity to really think about what experiences are and what they could be, we're sort of that blessed generation where we get to lead millennials and centennials.
Welcome to Gen X Amplified, where we bring you inspirational and entertaining conversations with successful Gen X leaders and entrepreneurs.
This is the show created just for you. The powerful generation between the boomers and millennials to help you amplify your story,
Maximize your impact,
and become Gen Exceptional in business and in life.
Now, here's your host, Adrian Porter.
Greetings, everyone, and welcome to a brand new episode of Gen X Amplified, the podcast dedicated to inspire and empower you with compelling stories and insights from the very exceptional generation of leaders, entrepreneurs, and game changers. First, I want to thank you for listening in to the podcast. Trust me, I really, really do appreciate it. Whether you are listening in while you're in the car, during your commute, at home, working out, or hanging out with your friends at a podcast listening party, it is my goal to bring you actionable and valuable content. And this episode is no exception because my featured guest is a principal analyst at Altimeter Group, and he is recognized all over the world as one of the most prominent thought leaders, speakers, and published authors in new technology and digital marketing. Now, as I mentioned, he is a best-selling author of some of the most groundbreaking books that include What's the Future of Business, also known as WTF. Now, prior to WTF, he wrote the magnificent book, The End of Business as Usual, which explores the emergence of a new generation called Generation C. I like that. And how businesses must adapt to reach them. And prior to The End of Business, he wrote the book Engage, which has been regarded as the industry reference guide for businesses to market, sell, and service in the social web. But everyone, we are here to deep dive into his latest and greatest creation. And I love this book, the newly released book titled X, The Experience When Business Meets Design, which explores the importance and relevance of experiences and how to design them for customers, employees, and human beings everywhere. So everyone, get ready to be excited and welcome my Gen X exceptional guest, the one and only Brian Solis. What's going on, Brian?
Hey, wow. Hey, well, it's great to be here. It's certainly a pleasure to hear sort of this history recap of all of this stuff. And I'm thinking, boy, I am old. But,
You're not old. You're just getting better, man. Like fine red wine, you know?
I like that. Yeah, well, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on. No,
it is my pleasure, Brian. I have been a fan of yours for a while. I love to see people, especially in my generation, doing wonderful things. You know, I start to feel old, but I don't feel, I feel good. I feel good because Gen Xers are doing some amazing things. And I tell you, this book, I want to spend time really unpacking the book. You have done so many amazing things, and you have such an inspirational story. You're doing some amazing things. You've written some great books, as I mentioned. But tell us briefly, Brian, a little bit just about your personal journey, and then we're going to get into this wonderful book called X.
Well, the personal journey is it's one that I don't even know where to start. It's certainly a long journey, but I will tell you this, that it's one of those uphill types of journeys where I don't know, there's something in me. I wasn't comfortable with the status quo. I always thought that there were ways to do things differently or do things better, or questioning why we had to do things like this. And you know, for those who listen to your show, we were part of a generation that was highly rooted in legacy and tradition, and all the while we were starting to witness some very amazing glimpses of innovation and disruption, bit by bit, and then
Right.
over time it accelerated to the point where I think we just sort of became this generation that got leapfrogged, because then the millennials were the beneficiaries of a lot of the effect of this disruption, where we were being literally disrupted as we went along.
Right.
They were the beneficiaries of, oh, well, this is just how life is. And with that said, though, the entire time I was questioning everything. Why would we do it like this? If this technology is coming around, couldn't we do this way differently or do this better? And I was constantly smacked down like whack-a-mole. Get back into your space. And I was frustrated over and over and over again. And I just thought it was me. Like, hey, maybe I'm the problem. Maybe I can't just do what I'm told to do and do it well and be managed in that regard. So I ventured out on my own in the 90s, started a company dedicated to helping companies thrive in this era of disruption. Mm-hmm. Ran that for about 12 years. But what was happening along that time was just radical innovation, right? Web 1.0, Web 2.0, social media, and now this incredible array of disruption that's happening all over the place. Internet of Things, wearables, 3D printing. I don't even know, how I could talk for an hour about it.
I know. Virtual VR, virtual reality, 3D. I mean, it's crazy.
Exactly, right. So I thought, in that 12-year span, I started to, well, actually it's in that 12-year span, but in the years since as well, I started to study it. Mm-hmm. Because I needed to almost like apply reverse psychology to myself, and then reverse engineer how was I different, and were there other people like me, and how was this technology affecting us and other people around us? And I started sharing everything that I was learning and all of my thinking and all of my findings online, just giving it away, and started early on, like a lot of people, a blog.
Right.
That was just became a destination for many people over the years. And when you're giving away that much insight, you find that there are other people like you. And you form a community together where you're not just talking to someone, you're listening to them, and you're listening to others, and you're inspired by the fact that they're like you and you're like them, and you all have aspirations that are sort of similar in nature, and you work towards a bigger purpose and mission. And that that huge community is something that's alive and well today, and it's even bigger than it's ever been. And in that, a lot of things just sort of started literally coming to me, and that would be in the form of, hey, have you thought about putting this into a book? Hey, have you thought about, speaking about this on a stage? Have you thought about contributing these articles? Have you thought about teaching these courses? And I didn't set out to do any of that. I just wanted to find my place in the world, and I feel like a surfer. I'm riding these waves, and I don't want it to stop. I want to help as many people as I can.
No, well, you have definitely helped more than your fair share of people. I tell you, you mentioned your blog, and I know that briansolis.com is probably one of the most preeminent digital marketing, branding blogs that are out there. That's when I first, got a hold of you and knew about you, when I started to really, dive into kind of content and learning, digital learning, and just kind of upping my game as far as understanding the digital marketing landscape. And, I first read many of your articles, kind of stumbled on them, and then just gravitated towards your learning. So I think that is a great lesson. And you mentioned, our generation, which is something that I'm always beating the drum on this show. And then when I do speeches, is that a lot of times that you mention, our generation, the sandwich generation, gets, overshadowed because of the magnificent millennials, because of the sheer numbers and just the influx into the corporate and marketplace. But we were there during the genesis of a lot of these technological advances, and that somehow got forgotten. But what you have done is what we always encourage, is you learn to embrace and adapt to those technologies and use them to your great benefit. So speaking of that, this book, the experience, and obviously I love the title for obvious reasons, but and as I mentioned, and when I was thinking about having you on, I said, we're going to redefine X for this show, and for a great reason, because experience is something that is not talked about as much as some of the visceral bells and whistles when it comes to marketing. Can you talk about, Brian, what was the motivation that encouraged you to write this book at this time?
I was just thinking that I was getting lost in your question because you have a very soothing voice, and I was finding myself sitting back in my chair relaxed while you were talking.
Oh, stop it, man. Stop it.
Oh, wow. All right. So coming back here into the moment,
oh, God.
The idea of experience.
That's experience. See, it's the experience of.
Exactly. Oh, man. Well, look, so you ask anybody what they think is the most important aspect of a product or service, and they're going to tell you that experience will probably be up there among the top.
Right.
But when you ask someone what makes a great experience, you're going to get 100 different answers. And that's because experience is very elusive. It's almost magical in a sense that it's undescribable or maybe unattainable or untouchable. But the reality is that it's just because we haven't been taught or conditioned to think about designing them. We just have them. But I think that any business looking for toward the future, especially with millennials and the centennials behind them, so plugged into a different sort of what's the best way to put this? A different format of values and aspirations, right? And format isn't the right word. It's foundation. They define happiness differently. They define success differently. Their goals in life are different than all of the generations before them. And Generation X, we've sort of been this generation that went through change. I mean, literally went through change. And gained greater experiences. We became the survival generation, but we're also the generation that if we take this opportunity to really think about what experiences are and what they could be, we're sort of that blessed generation where we get to lead millennials and centennials, right? Instead of just going through life, being this middle generation between what was and what will be. Mm-hmm. And this is a great time because everybody needs leadership. It's just that we are changing from a dynamic of management, right? Most businesses sort of have cultures of management. They're risk averse. They're not innovative. They follow things the way they've been done the last 60 years. Yet you have all of this great disruption in terms of technology outside and great disruption from the inside because millennials are coming into the workplace because they do and work and see things differently. They want to be managed differently. So this is a great time to think about it. Now, experience affects everything, whether you're a customer, whether you're an employee, just as a human being, every day you have and share experiences. In the future, especially with what I call Generation C in the end of business as usual, I was starting to hopefully help people understand that it's not generational. It's like if you need a hammer, you don't go shopping in Google for, I need a hammer for a 40-year-old.
Right, that's right.
You need a hammer for an application.
Right.
And what technology is doing for us is actually starting to allow us to see the human beings and how they group together based on interests, aspirations, frustrations, what have you. And it's not age bound, it's lifestyle bound, it's aspiration bound. And that's what I was inspired by over the last 3 books, was to say what is an experience and how do I design it for people like other people? And how would I build businesses and products and services and entirely new infrastructures around it? And guess what? As crazy as that sounds, it's happening right now, right? Uber is an experience-based company. They started from scratch. It's not a transportation company, right? It is an experience. Airbnb is an experience. All of these new companies are about experiences where technology, products, and services come together to deliver what they want to have, what they want you to have. Now, I think that they're opening up the possibilities. We can go so much further, and that's what X is about. It's designing experiences and then building infrastructures to support them, and then reinventing business along the way.
No, it is such a great book, and I was jumping for joy as soon as it came out, I bought the book and I loved it. And you're tapping into something that, like I said earlier, not too many people are talking about. And for people that are listening in, and we talk, I'm focusing a lot of my attention with this podcast on everybody, not just the Gen Xers, but especially Gen Xers that are business owners that are looking to really build their brand, their business, and especially in this new media marketplace. And I'm so glad that you are here to talk about that variable of business building experience, because it is, right now, you mentioned the Ubers and the Airbnbs, and we'll get into some of my two favorite brands of all time, the Starbucks and Apple, which you dedicated an entire chapter to. Those are the businesses that are the outliers as far as in a good way. They are breaking through. And when I got the book, I tell you, aesthetically, it is a beautiful piece of art. The font choices, the craftsmanship, the design. It definitely reminded me of something of the marrying of digital and analog. And was that intentional for you, right?
Oh yeah. Well, here I'll just get a little. I'll open up the kimono a little bit. The book is beautifully designed. I'm not, there's no doubt about that. My friends at Mechanism, who run a very successful boutique advertising and digital agency in New York and San Francisco, were my partners in crime on this. And what I set out to do was, as an author, writing about experiences and also how to design experiences. Mm-hmm. I recognized that it was not fair for me to ask you to change and ask you to bring about change. And here's a book that looks like every other book, Times New Roman font, it's a rectangle, it's 250 pages.
Right.
I felt that I should use what was in the book as a way of building a new book. So after I finished writing it, I started reading it and went through all of the steps that I was asking you to do to see if I could reinvent what a book could be in 2016, but also how a book could be an incredible experience. I was blown away by just how much inspiration I had and how many possibilities I considered, and so I started studying how people are different. I started studying how the reader that I was looking for. First, who was the reader? Go through their world. Why, what are they trying to do? Why are they frustrated? What are their goals? And the whole process became incredibly human. So I started studying user experience, user interface, usability, attention spans, a lot of psychology, a lot of the future of learning, and thought, wow, not only am I inspired to redesign what a book experience could be, I then went back and rewrote the book because it was written like a book, and realized what I was trying to do was promote engagement with how our brains were being rewired because of being in a mobile, always-on, real-time world.
Right.
And there's a lot of things that you learn about expectations, retention, bursts of attention that I just had completely neglected or overlooked before, and now it was very clear that what I was asking you to do as a reader for your business, I was now reinvigorated to see things differently as an author moving forward. So I shortened and tightened up sentences to cater to the bursts of attention, that each sentence would lead to the next in ways that would get you in a concept, let you retain it, but then give you a break, go into some white space, right, or visual learning. And there's no table of contents, for example. Everything is sort of compartmentalized into what I borrowed from the software versioning aspect of things,
right,
so that you don't have to keep reading. You can stop and move at your own pace. The design of the page is actually like what you would see on a tablet. The design of the book, the shape of the book, is modeled after an iPad Air to promote familiarity.
I noticed that. Yeah, and not to interrupt you, I have a treat for you too, because I love primary research, right? So I thought about that as the book, and I have a 7-year-old son, right? So I'm gonna play something that I did with him. It's my own personal research, and you'll get a kick out of this. And you mentioned the design of the tablet. This is my son Cameron in our conversation. Cameron?
Yes.
All right. Who are you? What's your name?
Cameron.
Who are you to me?
I'm your son.
Okay. You see this book?
Yeah.
What is the name of it? What is that letter?
The X.
What is this? Look at it. What does this book remind you of?
Gen X Amplified.
Gen X amplified. Okay, but does it remind you of something? Something like, does the shape of it or the look of it remind you of anything? Or what?
A tablet.
A tablet? It looks like a tablet? You sure? What kind of tablet?
Apple.
Apple tablet?
I mean apple, yeah, not Apple.
Okay. Did I tell you to say that?
No.
You came up with that by yourself?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just curious. I just wanted to get your opinion. Thanks, buddy.
Okay.
That was it.
Oh my God, my smile is so big right now. My chap lips are cracking.
I thought you would appreciate that. And I love, kids, the innocence of kids. They're probably one of the best researchers ever. So I just did a little experiment. So I thought you would get a kick out of that.
Oh man, you have made my entire day. So that's it. I went back to basics. And there's a part in the book where I talk about Disney, and it's not in the book because I didn't think that this might cause a little bit too much of a deviation. But while I was writing the book, I like to draw on napkins, these little quotes and stuff from wherever I'm traveling, and post those to Instagram. And while I was writing this book, I realized that I got to this place, this blank slate that was so clean and innocent that I was reminded of just being a kid. And I shared a quote about sometimes tapping back into that allows you to have new perspective, because that's what I'm asking the reader to do, is just have new perspective. And that's why everything about the design of this book is so different, in that it's not just beautiful design, it's just I'm seeing things differently because I allowed myself to not be influenced by the legacy of the company or my teaching or my experiences, but to see things through the eyes of someone else for new possibilities. And
right.
and that just reminded me, your son, of what this was all about. It was an arduous journey, man. I wanted to give up tons of times. You're sort of inventing from scratch and going through this idea of asking you to change was incredibly empathetic. Mm-hmm. And that's where I think we all need to get is the idea of looking at other generations and appreciating them for their differences and the possibilities that sort of emerge out of the process, and allow you to be inspired by that, because the perspective that you get from it allows you to grow, allows you to learn. And I think that's what this is all about, is regardless of what the book's topic is about, you're going to, at the very least, as an individual, as a human being reading the book, you're going to be able to see where you are and where you want to be differently than you did yesterday. And I think at the end of the day, we could all use that. And that personal transformation for me was just sort of testament to what's possible for each of us.
Well, that is so true. And I tell you, everyone, definitely get this book. And it is so full of value as far as, great, in the essence of it, great case studies of companies and brands that have embraced experience as, an imperative asset to the company. And the Apple's in there, my favorite brand of all times. It talks about also the importance of storytelling. Get into Joseph Campbell's hero's journey. It is a great, exceptional experience. Now, Brian, before I let you go, there's a question I always ask my guests at the end of the show, and I'd love to get your insight on this. Okay. If there was a song that would play every time you enter a room, Brian, or when you walk down the street, that fits your story and the brand of Brian Solis, what song would that be? Basically, what would be your own personal theme song and why? Oh
my goodness. That would, as a lover of music, that one's almost impossible to answer. I will tell you this, though, that I was speaking at a conference in Australia, mm-hmm. and the song that came on when I was walking up to the stage was AC/DC's Back in Black. And I thought, oh, that's so perfect. And I asked the AV guy at the end when they were taking off my microphone. I said, "So what made you pick that song, or was that just sort of random?" He's like, "No. I read your book, and that's like the first song I thought of." And I'll take it, because that's pretty good. That's a pretty good song. And I actually think that, at the end of the day, if you wanted to apply that to what we're all doing, we all need a little bit of rock and roll sometimes.
Right.
Just challenge convention. The spirit of rock and roll was just let's just change it. Let's just rock out. And at the end of the day, I'm pretty sure depending on my mood, I'd have a different song all the time. But
no, that's a great choice. It's actually a Gen X classic, and it fits you perfectly with your nice black tailored suits that I always see you in when you're speaking, man. You definitely keep it stylish. Brian, it's definitely been an awesome experience chatting with you. Tell everyone the best way that they can find out more about you and the book and some of the things you have planned in the future.
Yeah, well, the book is, you can learn more about the book at xthebook.com. Mm-hmm. You could read more about my work at briansolis.com or find me at Twitter at Brian Solis. I'm all over the place under the same name, so connect with me how you want it. The book is in bookstores everywhere. It's on Amazon as well. And what I'll be working on sort of in the future is figuring out how to promote the ideas of X and really empower people to bring about change in every facet of work that's out there, and do my best to be part of a bigger community, a bigger movement that changes things.
Love it. Everyone listening, business leaders, brand leaders, personal brands, because even as a personal brand, as a leader, you need to really amp up your experience with your audience. Definitely get this book. Brian, thank you so much for spending time with me and Xing it up in our Gen X Amplified community.
Thank you, Adrian. And send a special thanks to your son for me, too.
I definitely will. Take care. Okay, that was the one and only Brian Solis, speaker, digital analyst, marketer, author of the book titled X, The Experience When Business Meets Design. And we talked about X on Gen X Amplified. That was such a great and pretty cool conversation I had with Brian. I absolutely love this book. And I'm not just saying that. First of all the way from the aesthetics, the design that which we talked about. I mean, this book is about design. So it is beautifully designed. And it was great to get my son on the show to validate Brian's thesis about the design of the book, which was a total surprise to him. But that was pretty cool to hear my son. My son actually likes being on this show. I might have a future podcaster in the house. But anyway, if you want to get the show notes that we talked about in the episode, definitely go over to genxamplified.com/029 for episode 29. And as I always like to mention, if you enjoyed this episode, enjoyed the podcast overall, please share it with your fellow friends, your family members, Gen Xers, anyone you feel that would get a lot of value from the content that we do discuss. And again, you can go over to the show notes and my personal website at adrianporter.com to get a free downloadable PDF, a tool called 10 Tools Every Entrepreneur Needs in this new media marketplace. Something I put together for you individuals that are looking to build a business and a brand in this digital, social, content-driven economy. Something that I'm giving to you for free. So that would do it for me on this episode. And as always, I really thank you and appreciate you listening and being part of this Gen X Amplified community. And as always, go out and build and define your unique story so you can create massive impact as exceptional leaders in business and in life. Until next time, all the best to your success. Take care.